It's ultimately up to you to teach stress, teach anxiety, teach fear, or to teach calm, to teach okayness, let's call it, to teach compassion. But if you don't recognize that stress teaches stress, calm teaches calm, you kind of continue the cycle over and over and over. Now, if you ever go into a situation and it becomes stressful, and at that time where you're having a situation and the stress, you don't notice that it's stressful, so to speak. Some people do, but they just continue with the stress, having the stress. It's a mental, unidentified, unconscious, unobserved, negative mental feeding. The negative thoughts begin to feed on your mind, and stress arises. Whenever you can look back on a situation, you realize that was a very stressful situation. That's a wonderful thing, because you're beginning to recognize that stress teaches stress, and ultimately calm will teach calm. If you don't recognize ever at any point that you are stressed and that you can change that for yourself by just recognizing that you can shift your attention to following your breathing during that situation. Getting rained out a little bit here. You'll never remind yourself ultimately in a stressful situation that, okay, this situation is happening. Let me just see if I can shift my attention to my breathing while I'm handling the situation. Someone's barking at you, yelling at you, or whatever it is. You cut in line, or you're driving and same thing. Someone cuts you off and does a brake check, or whatever it is. Can be a very stressful situation. So, at that moment, do you remind yourself that I can notice that I'm breathing? There may be some conceptual realization that needs to be there for the person, that you realize that this person may not have recognized that the mind tends to bring you into stress and tries to spread it to other people, which is the brake check. And that's fine. Their evolutionary stage has not flowered quite yet, or is it not flowering quite yet? That's okay. But for yourself, recognizing it, you're able to do that. Okay, the person did that. And that stress tends to dissolve, and the calm tends to rise. Once you recognize shifting your attention to your breathing is a very powerful attribute of the human anatomy. That awareness that we have, and that ability to be able to shift our attention from our thought process to the inner aliveness of our body, which is usually recognized through your breathing. It brings down the stress. It brings down the anxiety. And there's almost no way for it to bombard you with stress and anxiety, because the awareness is there. Stress, anxiety, anger, fear do not like the light of awareness on it. So if you bring that awareness to any situation, stressful, anxiety situation, whatever kind of situation it is, it ultimately can be handled with ease. And it looks very wonderful. I've even had people come to me. I'm handling a so-called stressful situation with my son, and I guess the person observed how I handled the situation, and they came to me afterward and said, that was a wonderful way that you handled that situation. I've seen people where they get very anxious and angry and almost start to yell at their child when they do something like that. But again, what will that be teaching the child? Stress, anxiety, anger. So at a very young age, if the parents are not aware, a child is a child. So if the parents are not aware, they're ultimately teaching stress, teaching anxiety, teaching fear, teaching uncomfortableness. A child may make a mistake, drop something, do something like that. It's ultimately up to you to teach stress, teach anxiety, teach fear, or to teach calm, to teach okayness, let's call it, to teach compassion. Those are the moments there that are vital to the child's development. And if you miss that, still, don't beat yourself up about it, because you're still learning. Excuse me. And once you realize that you're still learning, there will be times where you still lose it. There will be times, okay? But the times will get shorter and shorter because of awareness, presence, compassion for yourself and for the child or the situation. But if you don't recognize that stress teaches stress, calm teaches calm, you kind of continue the cycle over and over and over. And the growth of your evolutionary consciousness, your evolutionary stage in consciousness still grows, but it grows very slowly. And it will take more stress, anxiety, suffering for that to ultimately be gone beyond. But most importantly here is to try to remember, ultimately, if you are just present most of the time for small things, then anxiety, stress, fear, and all that won't really be able to take you over at any given time, because presence is deeper than the normal state of consciousness. And so it'll kind of be like natural for whatever situation that comes up to be handled without stress. It will ultimately be handled calmly, without resistance. Thank you.